ScotCPS Bites, Video 2, Reasonable Use of Force. Hi there, it's Alan here again from the Scottish Centre for Personal Safety. In the first bite video, we talked about the law in relation to defending yourself and how you had to use reasonable use of force. So in this video, we're going to take it one step further and we're going to discuss what is reasonable. The interpretation of the force that you use depends upon the gravity of the crime being prevented, whether it was possibly prevented by non-violent means, whether you're willing to try those means first, and the relative strength of the parties involved. So let's go through that one by one. The first part, the gravity of the crime being prevented. That's pretty straightforward. It just means how serious is it. And usually when you're looking at the amount of force that you can use, it's like a balancing act, like a set of scales. So the amount of force that someone's doing to you, you could equal that amount of force back. So in other words, if someone comes up and pushes you, it might be too much for you then to punch him in the face and break his nose. Whereas if someone comes at you with a knife, it might be perfectly legitimate for you to pick up a chair or another improvised weapon, and we can talk about that in another video, and use that to defend yourself, perhaps causing him serious damage, because his intent is to cause you serious or lethal damage. So therefore, in that set of scales, you can do as much force back to him or her to stop them. So that's the gravity of the crime being prevented. It then says whether you're willing to have a non-violent means. Before you went to become violent yourself, did you try something non-violent? What does that mean? It could mean shout and get back, stay away from me. It could be simple as that. It could mean crossing the road, if it happens to be out in the street. Leaving the room you're in to another room, if it happens to be in your house. Voice control, body language, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to cover all those in other videos, so bear with us on that one. It could mean any of those things. And that's the non-violent means that the courts and the law will be looking for before you became physically yourself. Now I understand that sometimes things happen very, very quickly and you don't get a chance to do any of those things. And the courts understand that as well. So they'll look at that and they'll say, okay, that was fair enough. You didn't get a chance to do a non-violent means, but were you willing to do a non-violent means? Did you even think about it? Is it something that may have crossed your mind that you would have done, or did you just launch straight in there with fists and kicks and everything else? Because if you just launched straight in, it's probably against the law. If you didn't and you were willing to think of a non-violent means first, you're complying with the law. Hope that makes sense for you as well. The last bit that we looked at was the relative strength of the parties involved. And for this one, I think the easiest way to think about it, because you're looking at two different parties and their strengths, I'm going to take you to one end of the scale and the other end of the scale with two characters called Boris and Doris. Now Boris is a big Arnold Schwarzenegger type guy, kind of young, not that he is anymore, but kind of young, athletic, big muscular guy. Whereas Doris is a elderly, frail lady, kind of small. In my mind, I kind of picture someone like the lady in Tweety Pie and Sylvester. The two of them are standing at the bus stop, two opposite ends of the scale, and the little old lady, Doris, decides to attack Boris, the big athletic guy. What can Boris do? What would be reasonable use of force to stop her? Now, for those of you who are thinking, he could just punch her in the face, or he could knock her out, or whatever, that would be deemed as probably too much, because she's only a frail elderly lady. So what would be enough? Maybe you could just put your hand in the head and hold her back. Or you could put her in a bear hug and hold her that way. That would be deemed as reasonable. What wouldn't be deemed as reasonable is smacking, knocking out, because one punch from that person could potentially kill her. So you've got to look at that as reasonable or not reasonable. Let's roll reverse now. So what happens if it's the other way around? If it's Boris, the big athletic guy, is going to attack Doris, what can she do to stop the attack? Now, she may kick, she may punch, but are they going to be effective against someone so big and so strong? Perhaps not. What she can do though, is use an improvised weapon. If she's got a brolly or something, she could hit him with a brolly. If she happens to have a walking stick, she could use that, or she could use anything that's on her person, because that's what an improvised weapon is. It's any everyday object that's on your person that you can improvise to use as a weapon. We'll cover that in another video as well in a bit more detail. Question for you though, going back to the role reversal again, would Boris be allowed to use an improvised weapon on Doris? Probably never. He's not allowed to use his hands and fists that well, so why would he be allowed to use another weapon? It's probably not going to be allowed, because it's deemed that this little old lady may not be able to sustain a hit from an improvised weapon. So hopefully, giving you the two extremes, give you an idea of what the relative strength of the parties involved are. And that's where it comes from. So that's it for the whole thing. We talked about the interpretation of reasonable force, the gravity of the crime being prevented, while you're willing to combat by non-violent means, while you're willing to try those means first, and the relative strength of the parties involved. So those four things are what you have to think about when you're talking about reasonable force, and it's what you should be getting taught when you're doing self-defense classes, because a lot of classes out there take it to extremes and you go one step further than what would be deemed as reasonable. This video is to help you comply with the law. So until next time, bye for now. Stay safe.